Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Why is the Camino hard? Why do pilgrims find a Camino hard? Having completed the Camino Frances, the most popular Camino, and a longish one, I'll attempt to give you some clues as to why the Camino can be hard. It's not the terrain. There's a whole video out there for somebody to do, but it's not the terrain. It's not whether you take hiking poles or not. And on balance, I'm probably a qualified yes, you need to take them. It's not even whether people snore. It's not even about your pack. And you can use a baggage service if you worry about your pack. It's actually something else.
Smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.
The biggest reason why a Camino is hard for most people, and I'm not talking about thru hikers here, I'm talking about the majority of people that do a Camino. The reason it's hard is because it takes multiple days. And many pilgrims underestimate the impact on their body and mind of trekking for multiple days. There are many factors impacted by and generated by the fact that you're walking multiple days, whether it's your feet, whether it's what you eat, whether it's washing, whatever it may be. But multiple days is the biggest reason why pilgrims find Caminos hard. A lot of people will tell you they walk their dog, they walk with friends, they go on walking holidays. But I think if they actually looked at what they did, there's a lot of stationary time there. When I go out walking and I see dog walkers, I would say half of them are really standing there and their dog's running around. The other half, yes, they're walking with their dog. It's very difficult to walk multiple days. Your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips are being asked to do something over and over again, hour after hour, day after day. And for most people, they're not used to that. And that's one reason why the Camino is hard. Something that happens when you walk multiple days is you have to consider things like washing your clothes. What do I eat? Where do I stay? How long do I walk? What water do I carry? So there's a lot to consider, but it all comes back to multiple days. Most people are not used to walking for 10 consecutive days, or 20, or 30, or 40. And it's that accumulation that is why walking Camino is hard. But there are some things you can do to mitigate this. One of them is to start walking months in advance. Go out for a walk 45 minutes every day. It'll help you choose and confirm your footwear choice. And it will build a routine and your body will be used to walking at least 45 minutes to an hour a day. Build in rest days on your Camino. We actually set aside 5 days for rest days, and in the end, we didn't need any of them, but what we did is into the major cities, we either arrived mid-morning or we spent the following morning in the city so we could do a bit of sightseeing. So when we arrived in Burgos, we arrived on not a particularly long day to arrive in Burgos. We had a little look around, had a bit of a rest. And then the following day, we spent over half the day just sightseeing in Burgos before we continued on our way, walked 12, 13 kilometers to our accommodation. So build in rest days. About 500,000 people reached Santiago in 2024. 50% of those did some or all of the Camino Frances. And 60% of those 50%, so 50 times 60, 30%, started in Sarria and finished in Santiago 100 kilometers later. Just 32,000, less than 6%, started in Saint-Jean and walked all the way to Santiago. But think about it. That's 32,000 people. So it's possible. The second reason why walking a Camino is hard is the weather. About 90% of pilgrims walk in the period between April and September, which coincides with the hottest weather on the Iberian Peninsula. Hot air, hot land, produces a hot environment. Hot weather saps your strength very quickly. The body's natural cooling mechanism is to make you sweat and increasing blood flow to the skin, and that requires energy and that requires fluids. Fluid loss, if it's not adequately replaced, will cause dehydration. That's at the one end of the scale. For the majority of pilgrims, they're not going to be dehydrated, but what they will do is it will increase their fatigue, and it will also impair their cognitive functions enough that it's noticeable. Sweating also results in the loss of electrolytes, and those are needed for your muscle function, so to stop you getting cramps and just general weakness. So the weather impacts how your body feels. The heat can also interrupt sleep patterns. It's tough to get to sleep when it's hot in the albergue. Not every albergue has windows with mesh on them. Some of them have no mesh at all, so people don't want to open the windows in case bugs get in. But not being able to sleep particularly well leads to further daytime fatigue. So the thing that thru hikers understand and athletes understand is you've got to be replacing fluids. So, as an example, on some days, my wife and I, we drank between 4 and 5 litres of liquid, of water and electrolytes and so forth. And on one of those days particularly, it was a pretty hot day. It was about 30k. It was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We drank 4 or 5 litres of water, and we didn't need to pee the whole day, which really tells you how much the liquid was needed by our bodies. Now, how you carry that liquid, everyone has their favourites, but in general terms, I would say people who use reservoirs tucked inside their packs don't drink anywhere near enough on balance. People who can see it in bottles, they can see when their bottle is empty. You can't really see that with a reservoir, and people at the end of days, I've seen them pull their reservoirs out and find it's half full, and it's generally hot. Yes, there are going to be odd times when it's raining, but it's generally hot between that April and September period on the Iberian Peninsula. So some of the things you can do to help yourself: drink more, drink some electrolytes, whether it's powders or fizzy tablets or whatever it may be. Thru hikers have a little thing they do called camelling up, where when they reach a water source, they actually drink half a litre or a litre. And then that means they don't have to carry quite so much because they're only waiting to get to the next water source to then camel up again. So there are many, many places to get water on the Camino Frances. And just remember, if you can't find somewhere but there's a store and it's selling water, buy that water. And also you can protect yourself. Umbrellas, long sleeves, sun cream. You can help yourself. The second biggest reason why pilgrims find thru hiking difficult is because of the weather. The third reason why pilgrims find a Camino hard, and I've deliberately put it third because it's not as big as the top two, multiple days and weather, is where to stay. Now, obviously, if you're on an arranged tour and all your accommodation is booked, there is still quite a bit of pressure to get to that pickup point, to get to that village or town, and you might not be feeling that you want to. So there is some pressure there. But for people who arrange their accommodation as they go along, it can be potentially a very stressful process. For most people, it's a foreign country and a foreign language. You're booking your accommodation 1 day or 2 days in advance. So every day you're having to contact people, work out how far you want to go, work out what albergues are nearby, contact them, arrange accommodation and go into accommodation. Now, obviously, the more you do it, the better you get. But to begin with, it is one of the major reasons why people find Caminos hard. We booked as we went along, and for the last period from Sarria to Santiago, we actually booked in advance, booked every day, because we were worried about the increase in pilgrims and whether we'd be able to find something. But for all the other days, we generally booked on the day. And a few places we just walked in. So it is stressful, can be stressful. One of the things to remember is albergues know this. They know they're going to have a flow of people day after day after day for 6 to 7 months. So they're there to help. It's set up to help you. It's not actually as stressful as it might appear. And one final point on it is it's fairly easy to book for 1 person or 2 people. It's a little bit more difficult to book for 6 or 8. So just bear that in mind depending on what your group is. So there it is, the 3 main reasons why walking a Camino is hard for most pilgrims. Multiple days, the weather, and where to stay. And often pilgrims stress about the terrain. What terrain are we going to meet? How difficult is it going to be? I won't say too much about terrain, because what one person finds easy, another person finds very difficult. What I would say about the Camino Frances is if you've done something like the PCT or Tour de Mont Blanc or another section on the Hexatrek or Tahoe Rim Trail or something like that, you'll find the Camino, the actual terrain for the Camino, very easy. It's not particularly difficult. There aren't many hills you have to go up and over. Yes, every hill, we all get out of breath going up hills. That's just, we're humans, we're going to get out of breath. But it's not the most difficult terrain. For the Camino Frances, if you start in Saint-Jean, the first stage to Roncesvalles is difficult for a number of reasons. First of all, it's your first day. Secondly, it's a long stage. And thirdly, there is a large uphill. You're walking 20 kilometres to go up about 1.5 kilometres. But most of it is actually on road. There's a steep bit to begin with, but pretty much most of it is on road. The section going down, you can make it on a road or you can go through a forest. But it's not excessively difficult. Yes, hiking poles make it easier. But that's probably your most difficult day. So that's it. Why do pilgrims find the Camino difficult? Because they're walking for multiple days, because the weather is hot, and they have the added stress of getting accommodation every day. Every other item from there flows from those 3 reasons.
Smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.